Emi. Welcome to Super Mom's Knowledge Series. Today's series is going to be about, how to keep our children safe online. That's our topic for the day. Now, I'd like to say a very big thank you to everyone. We have moms and dads who keep joining us from all over the world. We have participants from Nigeria, from the United States, from South Africa, from Canada, and even the United Kingdom and other parts of the country, of the world, sorry. Just want to say a very big thank you to everyone, and God bless you for joining us. And before I continue, I'd like to just take you through a few housekeeping rules. Now, please note that the webinar is live and is interactive, so we will be interacting with you through polls and some other fun activities and games. The webinar is also being recorded so that it can be made available to other parents who may not make the live session. You might also make use of the chat box, which is at the bottom part of your screen for your questions, comments, and any reactions that you have. We'll try to take all your questions during the Q&A session, and that will be at the end of the guest speaker's presentation. If you'd like to speak at any time, please raise your hand using the raise hand tab or click on the green tick, which is at the bottom right corner of your screen, and we will unmute your microphone. If you're having any technical challenges such as poor audio or video during the presentation, kindly send a message to the host for assistance. Thank you. Now let's get a bit comfortable. We have this icebreaker. Before we get into the main session, I just want to involve you in a quick and fun game. And the name of the game is called Trivia. Okay, now you would have questions appear in form of a poll. Each questions have like 4 answer options. So please just choose what you think is the correct answer for each of the questions. The poll should appear on your screen any moment now. It only take a few moments. It's just for us to warm up before we start the main session. Okay, yes, so we have the polls coming up now. So you have, I think there are 4 questions altogether, and then they all have 4 answer options. So the first one says, where was COVID-19 first discovered? Is it in Brazil, Beijing, Wuhan, or Korea? So please note, you are not allowed to Google for the answers. Okay, however, you can ask your smart kids around, you can ask them for the answers, okay, while you're filling in. And please note that it is an anonymous poll, okay? You won't get to know the answers that you have picked, so feel free to answer the questions. So you have the second one that says, what are the neutral colors? Okay, not the primary colors, the neutral colors. Okay, so what are the neutral colors? Lastly, we have, okay, so sorry, the third one is which of these is a fruit? And then lastly, what is the meaning of COVID? Okay, so thank you everyone. I'm sure we have all chosen our questions. We should see the results. Okay, so let me just give everyone about a few more seconds. Let's just take 20 more seconds for everyone to participate. I'm sure it's going to be fun. Okay, so like fourth question says, what is the meaning of COVID? Is it contagious virus disease? Is it corona victim disease? Is it coronavirus disease or coronavirus deadly? Okay. All right. So we'll be ending the polls now, and we'll see our results. Okay, so actually most of our parents actually got the first question right. Where was COVID-19 first discovered was actually in Wuhan, China. Okay, and so 89% of our parents got it right, and about 11% picked Korea. Second question, what are the neutral colors? Okay, and like I said, it's not the primary colors, the neutral colors, and that is white, black, gray, and brown. So 98% of our parents got this right, and then we have about 22% pick other options. And then the third one says, which of these is a fruit? Is it lettuce, carrot, tomato, or corn? Oh, fantastic. So even for me, I probably didn't even know this until about a few months ago. Tomato is actually a fruit and not a vegetable. So I have about 78% of our parents got this right, and while some picked carrots. And for the last one, oh, fantastic. So all of our parents got the third question right, and the answer is coronavirus disease. Okay, I'm sure that was fun. Thank you everyone for participating in that little icebreaker we had going on there. Okay, so just before we go into the main section, I just want to talk quickly about the Super Moms Foundation. So the group Super Moms actually started in 2019 as a community where mothers across different ages share their parenting experiences, challenges, and learn from each other on motherhood and different techniques on how to raise successful children. Now, we also have the Moms Day Out. Okay, that is where mothers across various professions and businesses take a day off twice a year. And on this day, we leave the kids and the home front with the dads while we go out to have fun, probably sometimes at the beach, sometimes at the spa, or we do some other fun activities that we have planned, for the day. However, last year, we started to take the Super Moms a notch higher by reaching out to more moms and also even including the dads as well in our activities. And so that made us start the monthly series called the Super Moms Knowledge Series. And this is a monthly webinar which holds on Zoom. And through this webinar, we've been able to reach about 500 parents across different countries, not just here in Nigeria. Again, at the webinar, we usually have invite experts to speak on various parenting topics and issues. In our previous sessions, we have discussed very important topics which include building emotional connection with your children, sleep, screen time, and your child, how to protect your children from abuse, understanding the mind of your child, how to teach your children values, what your children should know about money, the rise of atheism, parents, how ready are you? And the last one was the faces and the faces of parenting. So listen and watch our previous sessions. Please visit our YouTube channel. I'm sure the link has been posted in the chat box. Please just click on it and it will take you to our YouTube channel. We'd like for you to subscribe, to like and share to other parents as well. Thank you very, very much. Now to the main reason why we are here. Now today's session will be discussing how to keep our children safe online. And I'll now be handing you over to our host for today, Ediri Sobande. Ediri Sobande is a seasoned data and analytics expert with over 18 years work experience in the telecoms, banking, and consulting industry. In addition to a professional career, Ediri founded called Awelewa is passionate about building wholesome and integrated family life with a focus on raising godly, social, responsible, and intellectually sound children who will become healthy, stable, and successful adults in the society. This passion inspired the idea for founding the Super Moms Foundation. Sobande has transformed families and reached out to indigent women and children through the foundation's several expressions. Now, this includes the monthly parenting webinar series, the Super Moms Knowledge Series, and also the Precious Pearl, which is a philanthropic outreach to indigent children and women. We also have the Moms Day Out, which is a biannual event for moms to relax and network with other moms. Please welcome our hosts, Ediri Sobande.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ope, for that warm welcome. Thank you, everyone, moms, dads, everyone joining us this afternoon, morning, from wherever you are joining us from. We are so grateful and happy to have you with us this afternoon or morning, depends on where you are. All right, so today we'll be taking a look at another very important topic, how to keep our children safe online. From our interactions with several parents, this has been a burning issue on the minds of many parents, especially with the pandemic that exposed our children even more to the internet world, where they had to do a lot of learnings online and even for fun activities. And so it's been a concern for a lot of parents how to keep our children safe, the measures to take and what to tell the children. So today we'll be looking at some very critical points and much more. We'll look at the importance of talking to our children about being safe while online. We'll also look at letting our young ones know what not to share online, what to do when not sure, and a lot of other very important security tips. To take us further into the session, we have a special guest with us, Dr. Itoro Emembolu. She is a professional, a wife, and a mother of 3 lovely girls. She has over 18 years experience in the areas of research and education, project management, program design and implementation, program design, business strategy, knowledge management, software design, testing and implementation, data analysis, impact, and process evaluations. Dr. Itoro is a director at TechQuest STEM Academy, where they provide much needed digital skills education to the underserved communities in Africa. TechQuest STEM Academy is a non-profit STEM education provider, and they have delivered training programs across Africa, impacting over 32,000 people. These impact numbers are achieved through the TechQuest community of over 800 ambassadors across the continent. That's a huge, huge work they are doing there at TechQuest. So everyone, moms, dads, everyone joining us this afternoon, please join me as I welcome Dr. Itoro Emembolu. Thank you so much, Dr. Itoro, for joining us this afternoon. Thank you. We're glad to have you here. So I'll take down my slides so you can take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ediri, for the introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you, Opelua, and thank you everybody that is here today. I'm very happy to be speaking with you today, and I would really like it for it to be a conversation. And I know at every point in time, people do different things that we can all learn from. So I'll just share my slides. Okay. So I hope everyone can see my slides.
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, so Ediri has mentioned some of the things that we'll be discussing today. Like she has mentioned earlier, we'll be talking on the importance of having conversations with our children and what on how they can stay safe online. We'll talk about privacy and security and what we can do as parents and guardians for them. And then we'll also talk about phishing and how we can safeguard against that. I'll talk a bit more about that. And then what we can do as parents when we are not sure if we've done enough, because there's always room to do more. And then even if you feel that we've done much, then at least you'll be confident that at least you've tried some of the good practices that other people are practicing. So let's dive right in. I think the first question I would like everyone here to respond to is, how safe do you personally think your children are online? And then also there's a follow-on question to what measures have you taken as a parent to make them safe? I would like some responses in the chat box. I think it's also good for us all to learn while I discuss some of the tips and good practices that I think that as parents we should adopt. And so first I'd like to talk about what online safety really means, or what it's been referred to online under different names. You could say it as internet safety, cyber safety, e-safety, digital safety. There are different ways that people have called it. But really, what are we talking about when we talk about online safety? We are saying it's just the act of being safe, being good digital citizens, being responsible in how we engage online. And as parents, we also think that if we also practice those, our children also will learn from it. And then we should also make sure that they are also practicing it. So I think it's good to have these conversations on how can they be safe, how can we also feel secure that we've taught them the right things to do on how they can be safe. So like I said, I'd like to see in the chat box, if you feel that your children are safe online, if you've taken some measures there, that would be good. So if you haven't done much of that or you're not sure what to do, that's still okay. We all learn. And then I will provide some of those tips like I mentioned, and we'll just go right into that. So I think the first thing that we should talk about is why do we think that they should be safe online? So technology generally, the internet, everything around that has transformed every way we work, the way we engage, the way we play, the way we learn. It has permeated the different sectors, the different industries, everything that we do. Technology is it has become a framework that we need to almost like discuss and talk about. And because of how it has permeated all of this now, it has become very important that we have those conversations because everybody is now online. And with the COVID pandemic, it has also made it more necessary or very necessary for people to be online, particularly our children. And they spend a lot of time learning, engaging, interacting, searching for things. But while they are there are also some risks actually. So there are a lot of benefits in being online. And there are a lot of things to learn, new knowledge to gain, but then there are also those risks that we need to look out for. There is the possibility of them engaging or coming across inappropriate content. They could also get, by engaging or logging in or typing or downloading, they could download viruses on their devices. They're exposed to different types of scams. They're exposed to people taking their personal information. Cyberbullying too, which is a big thing that we also need to be aware of. They're exposed to all of these things. So it's very important that we discuss this. And there's this interesting statistics from the United States Department of Justice. It says that 1 in every 5 children, every time they go online, they receive unwanted solicitations. And that's really scary. So if you look at it, that's 1 in 5 children. In Africa, we have over 50% of our population are under the age of 25. So that's a large number. So if you just think about it, 1 in 5 of that, they are exposed to this. So I think it's a very, very important topic that we need to look into, we need to discuss, and we need to talk about it and see how we can help them, how we can support them as much as we can. So there are certain risks that they are exposed to. I've spoken earlier about that. And I would like to mention them like 4 C's. So first of all is the content, the harmful information that they could come across while they are browsing, while they are searching for things for their assignments, and even violent, even fake news that they take on, and then if they don't have someone to bounce off their ideas with, then they can just assume that that's what it is. Meanwhile, the information might be fake. It might contain violence. It might just be very inappropriate for their age group. So those are really, they are real concerns that we should think about as parents, that we should be aware of. The second C that is very important is contact. There is the possibility that they will meet different people online. Apart from engaging with their friends, they will make new friends online. And some of those friendships could lead to negative consequences, because it's not everybody that they meet online that are actually young people. We have adults that pose as young children and try and engage our children online. So it's very important that it's a big risk that our children are exposed to, and young people. There is also that psychological thing of, like as I mentioned earlier, cyberbullying, or even people that they become friends with our children online and start making them think about doing things, or trying to coerce them to doing things in their homes or meeting up with them and all of that. So that is a very big risk that I think it's very important to make sure that we, as parents, we are aware of it and we're doing something to try and mitigate any negative effects that they might have on our children. The other thing is about conduct. So being online, it's not easy. Even as parents, we find ourselves a lot of times even trying to have that balance between work and life. It's difficult for adults. So you can imagine how it is for children also. And then there's that bit where they could get addicted to things online, to games. They're always online. They spend too much time, games, movies, in different chat rooms and all of that. So the way they conduct themselves while being online, there has to be boundaries, there has to be limitations set, and they have to be aware of it and know what to do, how to act responsibly, how to what to do that is the right thing. They should be aware of it. And as parents, we should try and see what we can do to support that, to make them to be able to act as good digital citizens. The fourth is commercialization. So a lot of this is around the risks that children face. I think there's that bit where you have children online and then they have adverts popping up, different things popping up while they are either watching a program or doing some research, and then asking them to either buy things, purchase things, download things, and all of that. So there's that risk that is there, and as parents, we should be aware of it. So the idea of talking about this risk is not to discourage parents, is not to say, let's try and make sure that we stop them from using the internet, we stop them from being online. It's just for us to be aware of those risks and try and see how best we can maximize the benefits that come with technology and the different types that are there. At the same time, what we can do to minimize the risk and the exposures and negative exposures that could come out of that. Okay. So I'll go into privacy and security. So when we talk about privacy and security, there are two aspects that we need to be aware of. There is the personal privacy, and then there's the consumer privacy. So the personal privacy has to do with the individual, as adults, as children, the kind of things we put out there, the kind of way we portray ourselves, the kind of data we share, the kind of information we put out there. How do we want it to go? How private do we want it to be? How much do we want to put out there? What digital footprint are we trying to put out there? So it's being aware of that and making a decision on what you want to share. Being sure that you are sharing the information you want to share, and not just that information is being shared and you didn't know that, oh, this is your information. Once it has gotten out there, this is what happens to it. So it's that personal privacy. So as parents, we need to make our children aware of what they put out there. And then there is a consumer privacy. So these are the different informations and then data that is collected on individuals as they go online, as they use different applications, as they go on different websites. So there are certain informations that are collected, and there are laws around that. They need to be informed. People need to be informed on the kind of data that is collected. But a lot of times they are in fine print, and a lot of people don't usually, a lot of times the information is usually long, so a lot of people don't read it. So as much as we can, let's try to read the fine prints and see what kind of data are they collecting. Each time you visit and each time you download a new app, it would be good practice to check the settings, what kind of information are they collecting, and particularly for our young ones. Anytime they download a new app, or even when you get a new device for them, you check the settings and see what kind of information are being collected. And then you can decide for it not to be collected. But if you don't, then automatically it gets collected, except you decline on that. I will walk through some of this, but I think those are two different types of settings that we should be aware of: the personal settings that we go ahead and set, like when we go on Facebook, we go on Instagram, we go on social media channels. There are settings that you could set, and then the ones that are set by the organizations that you use. So I've mentioned some of the settings and some things that we need to do. Like I said, if anytime we buy a new device, we should check the settings for mobile phones, for tablets, desktops, and then also the applications that are there. There are some applications that immediately you log in, they will ask for you to share your data. So we need to be sure that we want to share that data. So it's not that everybody should not share it, but you need to make that decision as a parent. Do you want your data to be shared? And sometimes those data are shared to improve the services, but at the same time, it's your decision to make that, do you want it shared or not? And particularly for our young ones, do we want those data or how they are using it being shared out there? So it's a decision that we have to make sure. So what we do, what I'll suggest is going into the settings for each of the applications. Most applications have their own individual settings, while at the same time we have the settings for the phone. So when you get a new device, check the settings and make sure we have some aspects on and off. So, and there are also advantages and disadvantages of choosing specific settings. For example, do we want the location sharing on or off? There are benefits for that. You might want to have it on in case the phone gets lost or something, you should be able to track it. But at the same time, do you want that data being collected by the manufacturers or whichever applications, or do you want it to, like if you go on Facebook and you have your location sharing on, it could show where you are at different points in time. Yeah, so it has to be, you have to make that decision. Do you want it on or off for your children? Do you want people to be able to track where your children are? And sometimes individually, some of these factors might seem harmless, but when you combine the different aspects where they're able to track your, where someone's able to track your location, at the same time, they're able to pull out information from social media or different places you've posted, they can come together and form a profile for you or for your child. So there are important things to be aware of. And I think that's the key word there, being aware of it and making a decision on what you want to do. So you check the app. So that's one, making sure the location sharing is either on or off is a decision, and check the app's privacy settings. And really a lot of it is particularly for the ones that you download, because a lot of devices for the children, when you buy those devices, that's the ones that are specifically targeted for children. Some of those security settings are already there, but it's good practice to still check it and make sure they are on. And also, I would suggest also checking it regularly, because when you have young people with phones, they play with the phones, they play with the settings, they explore things. So it would be good to check it from time to time regularly to make sure that some of those settings are still in place. The other thing to look out for when you're checking the settings is, are they asking you to share information with third party? If you do not click that, you don't want that, that means that any information that is being pulled from the device can be shared with, maybe for marketing purposes and all of that. So it's being aware of that and making a decision. Do you want that information to be shared? A lot of times, like I said, you will be told that some of this information is good so that it will help to improve the services and provide much targeted services for you, which is good, but then you make that decision for your children. So if it's a device for an adult, you could decide you want it, but for your children, do you want that to happen? Then the other thing is the privacy settings of the browsers. So there are also settings on different browsers. So browsers that our children or our young ones use regularly, it would be good practice to check the settings of those browsers and see that they are able to have safe searches such that when they search for something, they put in a word, inappropriate content doesn't come out on their devices. So it's good to also check that. And then we should also watch out for cookies. So cookies kind of like pull out information on everything that you do online. And sometimes it's good because the cookies help you to save passwords so that you don't enter the password every time and all of that. So you might want to have that on, but you might not want to have it on also, depending on what they say the data they are going to use for. And like I said, for applications that you download or things that you download, it's always good to check what the cookies are for in the application. And then there's the social login. So there's how you log into your device, and it kind of like almost links to every platform or website you log into or access. And then if you share information with it, it automatically provides the information there, and those applications or website can pull information, personal information from that. So all of this, you can check them in the settings of the phones, different devices that we have. So it's good practice to check that. So I'll have a question here also. So I also like responses in the chat box, or to think about it. How recently have you checked the privacy setting on your child's device or on your ward's device that they are using? How recently have you checked it? Just let's think about it, and we'll still get back to that. Okay. So this is like an example. I just wanted to give almost like a practical example for how people can check it. So if you go to the settings of the phone, if we go to our different settings of the phone, and I chose Google, particularly because a lot of searches are being done on Google, but it could still be done with others. But using Google as an example, if you go to the settings on the phone and you click Google, then if you click the settings, you go to accounts and privacy, and in some places it will be account services, some places it will be search services. Then you click it, and then on Google, there is this bit where they call safe search. So you can either toggle it on or off. So if you don't want, if you want the content that comes out anytime they open Google to ensure that the content is safe and it doesn't bring out inappropriate content at all, then you toggle it on. And I think it's good practice to have this on for all devices that are young ones engaging. Then that's for like the phones, the tablets, and all of that. You could also still do that on Google search. So if you just go into any device and go on Google search, if you look at the top right, they have either those 9 small dots, small buttons. You can click there, you can see Google search. And then you go to the bottom, they have where the bottom of your screen, it has where it says settings. So if you go into that settings also, you should be able to see where you can toggle on safe search on or off. So I think that's one good way to ensure that the content that our young ones are looking at from the beginning, anything they type into it, we are sure that Google wouldn't bring out any content that is not safe, or just any content that has been put up there. It filters the content that comes in. So that's one practical way to do it. And then just do that for the different apps. And because there are different technologies, different phones, different devices, I would encourage parents and guardians to explore these devices, because if we're going to give it to our young ones, and we could explore it with the young ones also, because some of them are really, really tech savvy, but almost like exploring it, know where it is, where to find it, so that you can check it from time to time. So I think that would be a good thing to do. Okay. So I'll also talk about phishing. Phishing is really a scam. It's really just about trying to target individuals to collect personal information in a fraudulent manner. And as adults, we are all exposed to this, and a lot of times we still have a lot of people falling victim to this because they almost mimic the exact services or organizations or websites that we are used to. So it's still an issue for adults. So you can imagine for the younger ones. So it's something that they really need to look into. And then there are different types of phishing scams that are there. We have the ones via emails, where it could actually be a genuine email, but most times to identify these kinds of ones, they will they'll provide a link to a different site. And once you go into that site, they try to pull out your personal information there. So one of the good practices there is to always look at the sites that they are sending you to, look at the address of it. And not click it. I'll still come back to some of the things we can do to avoid and safeguard against phishing. But generally, that's what it is, the different email scams. Some of it just takes you directly to a website that is almost like a replica of the real websites that we have. But sometimes if you notice either one word or one letter, or even the way the logos are, they'll be a bit different. So it's to try and be a bit observant, particularly where you have to put in your personal details. And that's one thing to be very careful about, because for emails and websites, anything that asks you to put in your personal details, please take a second look before putting it in. So it's the same thing we tell our young ones. Be very careful where you're putting in personal details. Take a look at it. Let's share with them some of the tips on how to identify some of these fake websites, emails that are soliciting personal information. There's also the voice calls. I don't know how many people have experienced it, where you visit some website and then because maybe you have some shared, maybe you have emails or personal information across different platforms, suddenly you start receiving calls, and then they start asking you to put in your personal, and they actually, most times they'll have some personal information they share with you to make you comfortable about it, and then ask you to impute some more details. So it's always good to try not to respond to those kind of requests on the phone. Sometimes it's better to do a callback. And when it's time to do a callback, don't call back the number that called you. Go to the website, the official website, and pick their contact number and call that number. And if it was actually a phishing call, it will come out there. And then there's also the one of pop-ups. This is the one that I think as parents we should actually really try and talk to our children about, because a lot of times while we try to monitor what they do online or support what they do online, there are times that you go ahead and you're doing other things and they're walking, and they could actually be sitting beside you and walking there, and then pop-ups come up and asks them to do different things, and how they respond could determine if they suddenly just give away some personal information. So we need to make them aware of pop-ups and not responding to pop-ups just that just come up, especially those asking them to impute any form of personal details. Then the fourth type is the one for support services. Those are the ones that call and say, oh, you are calling from your bank or we're calling from your school and there are these issues. We want to confirm this. Tell us your parents' numbers, tell us your address, and things like that. So we need to also make our young ones aware of those kind of scams. And some of them might start with very innocent questions. Oh, and because they are online, they might already have some digital footprint, some information out there. And those are the informations that they use to draw people in. They mention some, oh, you're at your school in this place, and we're trying to confirm this. Please confirm your email address and things like that. So we need to be aware of it, and we need to talk to them about these different type of phishing scams that are there. And then we'll just go into what we can do to safeguard against this. So the first thing is, for emails, especially those that we are not sure of, or in general, any email that just comes in and asks you for personal information, it will be good practice not to click on the downloads, especially if you are not sure of it. And then you could actually, like I said, refer back to their website there and the known links that are there. And, or if possible, if you have online access, go back and log into your the portal or wherever, however you log into it, and then check for it. So if you have those mails, they will also be there. So let's be careful about downloads. Let's talk to our young ones about the downloads that they click on. Then the other thing that we need to check, especially for security, to see how safe some sites are, some links are, is to look at the website. So a lot of times when we have the HTTP, it shows that there is some level of security, but when we have the HTTPS, that means there's an added level of security. So a lot of the phishing scams are usually HTTP, or they end up because the level of security is reduced compared to others. So for things that ask for personal details, most times they should come from web instance, the HTTPS. Okay, and then also check the emails that are sent. If you have emails from schools, they could miss out some of the letters of the schools. So if you are not very observant, or the child is not very observant, they might not notice it. It might just seem like the regular email. So let's take a second look and let's advise our young ones, take a second look. Anything that asks for personal details, please take a second look. That's good practice. And like I said, if in doubt, go to Google or go to their original sites and check, or you call their customer care. So call the numbers that they have on their websites to contact them if you are not sure. So whenever you're in doubt, please go back and check, rather than, and advise our young ones to check or call the attention of an adult to it. And the other thing is, as for support services, so while you have instances where they say they are trying to fix something, and then they ask that you should provide, or they could even give you a pop-up and tell you to accept the pop-up so that they could access your computer remotely. So let's be very careful about that, and let's advise our young ones about that, because once they provide access to it, then anything that is on that system or device can be taken, or they have access to, so they can pull on any of those data. And like I had said, we should also check for typos in the pop-ups, in the email addresses, in the mails, even in the general tones of the mails that are received. Sometimes it raises those suspicions, and anytime we have those suspicions, we should take a second look at it. The other thing is to ensure that the devices of our young ones also are protected. So let's use technology, the different added protections that we could get on the devices where we can. So some of the things that we should ensure that our young ones do not share online, particularly, is posting or trading personal pictures. So we have young ones or people that either, even with friends also, they say, oh, send me your picture, I'll send you mine. They need to be careful, they need to be aware, they need to know that once they put out anything out there online, it's difficult to take it all back. because you might decide, oh, I've put it out there, I want to delete it. But before you delete it, somebody could have saved it somewhere and it's out there. So we need to let them know that before they post anything out there, they need to be sure that they need to know that they are losing control of what goes out there and how people would use it. People could use it for anything. They could use the pictures, they could use the content they put out there. So I think it's important stressing the need for them to think about it before they post something online. Should I post this thing online? Why am I posting it online? And then for personal information, they shouldn't divulge addresses, phone numbers, locations, names of schools. The danger with some of this, and also, is also, I think, as parents, also think about what we post online about our families. It's okay sharing with family and friends, and you might have some of those security on your own end, but are we sure of all the security protocols that each and every friend that are attached to our profile, are they fully covered? Can people pull out the names of your children, their schools, their siblings? And then there's that security of they could go to your children's school and say, okay, and they call the children by name, they know their address, they know their siblings, and have a conversation with your child. So those are things that we need to also be aware of. What are we putting out there? Why are we putting it out there? So again, I would like to say that it is being aware of it and making a decision on what, why and what you want to do about it. But for like children, we should advise them that it's good practice that they shouldn't be divulging personal information online. And then people are able to track them wherever they are, or meet up with them and provide some of those details that might make them feel a bit more comfortable to converse with them. The other thing we need to let them know is not to agree to meet with people online. So you meet people online and then they schedule meetings, physical meetings. So they shouldn't agree to such meetings and go for those meetings without a trusted adult supervision. And also, I think it will also be good to have conversations or even have an idea. The older the young ones grow, the more difficult it is to know everyone they speak with, but it's good practice to have that conversations. I think keeping that communication line open enough that you have an idea the different people they chat with or they have conversations with regularly. Then it's also good practice to let them know not to share passwords, because in as much as a lot of times we say while trying to get passwords or make passwords, you try and use very random things. Normally, a lot of people try to associate passwords with things they do. And if you find that, if you check it, you see that a lot of people's passwords kind of align with things around them. So it's not too good for them to share those passwords, because after a while, they might start having some iteration around particular passwords, particularly with the younger ones. And then people have access to those passwords. And it might not be malicious when they share it with their friends and some people within their circle of influence, but those passwords leave them exposed for people to access some of those personal details about them. So it's good practice to ensure they don't share passwords. Then also possibly use screen names if they are on social media platforms to reduce the amount of personal information they also give, particularly as children, to protect their identity. That's one way to do it. Then also, most of the devices for the young ones, like I mentioned earlier, they come with particular settings that try to incorporate some of those safety measures and privacy measures. But with children exploring those phones, like I said, there is a possibility that they could change those settings. It might not be deliberate, it might be they actually wanted to change it, but it's also good to just check it and advise them that those settings were kept there for a reason, to protect them. And above all, I think it's just to ensure that that communication, they need to understand why it is important for them not to share some of these details, why it is important for them to think about things before they post. They need to think about the impact of it. Would it make any difference? What are they expecting out of it? Or what can happen if they post this thing out there? So those are some of the things that to be good to discuss with our young ones about sharing online. And please, if you have questions, please put it in the chat box. I'll be happy to respond to them. And as parents, I had mentioned earlier that there are different ways that we have tried to put in different measures to ensure that our young ones are safe. But these are just some good practice guides in case we are not sure what to do, and also to communicate with our young ones in case they are not sure what to do to be safe online. One of the things that might be very useful as parents within the family are there specific guidelines that are put down for young ones to adhere to while they are online. They could be very simple guidelines. They could be things like you shouldn't spend too much time, maybe like 3 hours a day online. It's just trying to build up good habits, because even as adults, we develop some of the habits of spending so much time online. We're constantly on our phones, we are constantly on our laptops, and as models for the young ones, if we are constantly there, it's difficult to tell them not to be on it, in as much as it is work. So we need to find that work-life balance. And it's difficult given that a lot of people are working from home also. So, but it's just trying to have those discussions around that and setting certain guidelines. But as parents also, we should have some of those guidelines that we follow, because a lot of things we do, our young ones model it either consciously or unconsciously. So we need to be aware of that. We need to adjust those privacy settings that I spoke about earlier. We need to supervise the use, how often they are online, what are they watching, what are they exploring, who are they chatting with. I mentioned trying to know who they contact online, which groups are they on, how often do they stay on it, how long do they stay on it. So just trying to also look at the 4 C's that we spoke about. So also how they conduct themselves, how long they spend on it. We don't want them getting addicted to it. We want them to also explore other activities outside being online, some physical activities, get some exercise done. So we need to communicate, I've just spoken about that, communicate about what not to share online. We need to teach them about body safety and personal boundaries. So there are personal questions that people could ask them online and that make them uncomfortable. We need to be able to let them know that there are certain things that once people ask you about, and that there's nothing wrong in saying no. If they're uncomfortable about it, they should say no. They should be comfortable in saying no. People should know their different boundaries. They as individuals should know boundaries that people should not cross. And they should be able to say, no, this isn't happening. So it's good to have those discussions with them for themselves as individuals and online as they navigate the online terrain. And then if they feel insecure, or if as a parent you are not, you are a bit concerned about particular accounts or ways that they communicate, one way to do it is to disable those kind of accounts, have the conversations, and it's always good to let them know why you feel they shouldn't be on those platforms or having those conversations. Then I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, it's always good while we are checking the settings at the beginning when we have those new devices and as they use it over time, as we check it from time to time. It's also good to check which accounts are linked to our children's accounts. because they could have conversations with people online and they tell them, oh, I've sent something to you, click it, and then they do that, and it's a link. They now have some shared settings, they now have some shared links, some shared accounts. So it's also good to check that. Another thing that we could do as parents is to do a password check. So let's do a forgot password and see what's the process in retrieving a password. So you know how secure that system or that platform is. If they just put up the password as you type it in there, we know it's not so secure. If they send it to a specified email that has been preset, and it's a bit more secure, and that's one way to do it. Then another good practice is to change passwords regularly and encourage our young ones to adopt that habit of changing password regularly. For adults, it's a bit difficult to always keep changing passwords, but it's good practice in case, just in case there has been some privacy breach on any of your accounts or any of your devices. If you change your password regularly, then you lock out or you mitigate against the extended consequences that could evolve from that. I mentioned limiting use, maybe saying how long do you want them to be online, so that they could engage in other activities, get some exercise done. And for example, I know I've heard of someone that puts off, so you try to say, maybe an example is limiting maybe during the day, or you're saying at night, you don't want them to be using the devices at night. I've heard of some people actually turning off the home Wi-Fi at a particular time at night and putting it back on in the morning. So they're just different ways. It's just to see which one works for you as a family, and having those conversations so they know and they understand it, and they understand the family limits and family rules and guidelines that are there. Another good thing to do is to try and keep the devices that our young ones use in sight. For example, where is if it's not a mobile device, where is it placed in the house? Is it placed in a very private place where they could be having having discussions or accessing inappropriate content, and nobody would know. But if it's in a more public place in the house, or where people can have a line of sight of the systems, then it's also good. It helps you to almost like keep an eye on what the young ones are doing, and if they need support, you are there to provide that support. So this bit, I put it in here because with being online, and there's a lot of disconnection with individuals in general. So it's not necessarily as related to children, but I think it's important, specifically when we talk about our young ones. Even as adults, with this COVID pandemic and everybody working online, there are instances where people have felt disconnected. In as much as you're having meetings, there are people that get very lonely, they get depressed and all of that because of that disconnection, that constant being online. So for our young ones, we also need to watch out for some signs that maybe they're experiencing cyberbullying, maybe they are talking with people they are not supposed to speak to online, or they are being approached by people that they don't want to talk about. So some of the common signs that are out there to watch out for, to just, if you notice it, please take a second look as a parent. Are things like when they start receiving a lot of calls from people you don't know, ask them about it. They could have just made some new friends, which is fine. But when they have a lot of those calls and you don't know, it would be good practice to talk to them about it. Know what they are getting up to. What are the new activities? Who are these people they've started talking with? And have that conversations. Another thing is spending a lot of time online, particularly at night, where they are alone and there's a possibility of getting solicitations from different people, different groups, profiles online. So So just watch out for some of those things. Another thing that has been shown is changing grades. Their grades dropping in school because they are spending a lot of time online. What are they doing online? Other signs might be them withdrawing from things that they usually used to enjoy. They they lack interest in the activities that they engage with. They don't engage with their other family members. So I think the main thing here is changing behaviors that we should watch out for. Are there changes in their moods, in their general behaviors? And apart from being online, I think it's important to just ask and find out what is causing this, or just investigate it a bit more. If they become nervous when emails come in or text, maybe they've had conversations and they don't want to continue, they're uncomfortable about it. And then some of them might decide to stop using some of the devices for a while. So if they've been very enthusiastic about using particular devices, then suddenly they just withdraw from it and say they're not interested anymore. It would be good to find out why and discuss the activities, discuss their concerns, discuss what they're doing around all of that. So those are some of the signs that would be good to watch out for as a parent for our young ones. And there are some smart rules that it will be good to make our young ones remember. These rules are being adopted by a lot of schools, a lot of governments. NCC has also put out this for how to make children safe online. So these are rules that are being used across different countries. So they are called the SMART rules. So it's just letting them know that they need to always be safe. They shouldn't give out their private information. They shouldn't give out addresses, telephone numbers, emails. They need to be careful of what they are putting out there. They should not meet people online. They shouldn't schedule meetings with people online without telling trusted family members and adult supervision. So they shouldn't schedule meetings and go ahead and meet these people physically. They should not accept emails, messages, open files from people they don't know. So it's almost like when we tell them in school, do not talk to strangers or be careful when you're talking to strangers. They should not accept things online also. And then they should always be aware that people are not always what they say they are, particularly online, because you can't see them to make that judgment. They are behind a screen. So people might not be who they say they are. We could have adults that say they are young children. We could have young children that say they are adults and have conversations. So they need to be aware that it's not everybody everybody that is online is not who they say they are. And then most importantly, if they are uncomfortable with conversations, if they are concerned with conversations, if they just need to learn about what is going on with them, what their concerns are, what they're uncomfortable about. And we should also meet them halfway and ask them about it, because sometimes our young ones might not be comfortable enough to tell us what their concerns are. So we should actually go an extra step to have those conversations with them, ask them about it, and check all of this. So these are the SMART rules that I believe that children should know, our young ones should discuss, particularly around when they are online. So I think that's where I would stop around there. Like Ediri had mentioned, I'm from TechQuest. I'm a director at TechQuest Academy, and we do a lot of trainings with young people, adults. We do online safety trainings. We do capacity building programs for young ones. I'll stop there and ask for questions if you have more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Itoro. Thank you for that very, very insightful session and very informative too. Okay, yes, we already have some questions in the chat box, a lot of them already. So I'll take the first question now. Please, what exactly do you tell a child to do when an immoral site pops up on his or her screen? That's one of the questions there.
Okay, so for that, the first thing you tell them to do is to because a lot of times when they see it, they know that they are not supposed to be watching some of these things. They're not supposed to. So the first thing is to switch it off, move away from the site, close the site, and tell an adult about it. So if they tell an adult about it, the adult can investigate where it is coming from, which sites are those things coming from. You could actually look into it. And I think the main thing here is opening that communications where they feel comfortable telling you about it, because they could see those things and they are not sure. If they are not sure, they talk to people. They can talk to their classmates, and the advice that they get from their classmates is very different from what they get from an adult, a more informed decision, a more informed plan to take. So I think the first thing is to take it off and then have the conversation, even ask them what they feel about what they feel about that content, why did it come up, how did it come up, and why you think it's inappropriate for them to be watching or seeing those kind of content at that age. So it's having that conversation with them so that they know that next time they see it, they just switch it off, but also encourage them to report such things. And how you react to when they report it also makes a whole lot of difference. If you start shouting about it, then they are a bit concerned. Next time, if I tell mommy or I tell daddy, he gets annoyed. You might not be annoyed, you might actually be shocked that it came up. So, but we need to watch our reactions to it. But at the same time, once it comes up, the first thing to do is to encourage them to take it off. They shouldn't encourage it. If they're in any group that such things come up, they immediately stand up and say, please, can someone take this thing down? It's not appropriate.
Thank you very much, Dr. Itoro. So the next question is, so much inappropriate content on the internet, very unsafe. Please, how do I block these inappropriate sites?
So that I mentioned earlier is actually going to the settings of the browsers that they use, the browsers they frequently use. If they have personal devices, you go into the browser's settings of that and put safe search. There's usually a button you can toggle whether you want it on or off. If you put it on, that means they wouldn't get all the content that is out there. What it does is that it filters the content that it brings to them. So the content they see are only the content that are free from some of those inappropriate content that is out there. So let's look at the settings. Let's go to the settings of the different browsers that they are exposed to and ensure that we put a toggle on safe search for them there.
Okay. Thank you so much. There's another question, but before I take that one, I just want to encourage parents that you are free to unmute your mic if you'd like to speak at any time. You want to ask a question yourself, please just let us know and then we'll unmute your mic so you can speak. So these other question, I think you have addressed it, but then I'll read it out. Please, how do I install filters to inappropriate sites? I think you also just addressed that.
So yes, so you could install filters that way. You could filter the content that is there. Then also, there are also some of the service providers or that option where they talk the kind of content service provider, it filters the content for the whole house or for the whole, everybody that is using that particular service. But at the same time, you could also put on those filters on the different devices. So putting all those safe modes, parental consent, parental views and all of those there on the personal devices, or you could go through the service providers too.
Okay, thank you so much. There is this question, is a concern from a parent. So I'm talking about giving devices to children that can be tagged as their personal device. what age would you recommend that parents allow children to tag devices as their personal, like their phones? This is my phone, this is my laptop, you know. What would be your recommendation to parents?
So I would say that there's no particular age that you can say is a recommended age. It will be how mature do you think that child is? How responsible do you think the child is? Have you tested the child on simple things? Are they able to know when to stop using like if you set limits, do they adhere to such limits before they start making it a personal device, even with the general device that they are all using? If you set limits, you set guidelines, family guidelines, and I think it's important to do that as parents. Set those guidelines, and let's see, are they responsible enough to adhere to those guidelines, even when you are not around as a parent? If they're able to do that, then you can be comfortable enough to say, okay, this child is responsible enough to do the right things. I've told them the right things to do. I've shared with them the right things to do. And I feel they're able to discuss it with me. Then at that stage, you can say, okay, this child is ready to have a personal device. So it's actually a personal call as a parent, and every parent knows that every child is different, and you know what your children can do, you know the kind of things you expect them to do, you know the kind of way you want them to grow. So when you think they've reached that mark where you feel they are responsible enough to take on some of this stuff, then you can give them a personal device.
Thank you so much. I'm going through the chat box now. I don't think there. Oh, okay. One question just dropped. Right. So my 10-year-old daughter was searching for people that could be of bad influence to kids. Okay. Okay, I didn't know what to do at first. Okay, I think the parent is still typing.
Okay.
Okay. The parent is still typing, I guess. Okay, so the parent says, my 10-year-old daughter was searching for people that could be of bad influence to kids. I didn't know what to do at first. Okay, she said her teacher asked her to search. Okay. Okay, so I think we'll just wait for the parent is still typing.
Okay, and she was wondering why they did that. So I think
Yes.
A lot of times when children come and ask questions, there's always a place it's coming from. It could be from direct conversations with their friends. It could be from this is from the school. So if you are concerned as a parent why that is, I think it's to call the school directly or call the teacher and find out why that is. So if she ended up seeing nude celebrities, then I think it's also the filter, maybe also checking the filter, the content that is coming in online, because Google brings out nearly anything that people have searched for. So by trying, and that's why I specifically said Google, because even in school, they tell them when you want to search for things, go on Google. So particularly around that, and not only Google, let's try and make sure that we check the settings of our search engines that our children use. Because if we check it, then at least we have that some security or some assurance that the content that comes up, no matter what they type in, would be free of some of those inappropriate content. But if that filter is not there, then it's a bit difficult because they will be exposed to that, and then you have to deal with the fallout of they've seen these kind of things. You have to explain to them why they shouldn't be looking at such things and all of that. But I think it would be good to have the conversation with the teacher also. And also check what kind of safety measures are being provided in schools. Also, if they're also allowed to check some of these things in schools. So have those conversations and actually check with the schools and let them tell you the kind of security measures they have against such things.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Dr. Itoro. So one more question. So talking about search engines, do you have specific search engines that you can recommend for children that parents can install on devices for children that are specific for children to use?
They keep changing. They keep changing. They keep changing with time. And some of that, if some of those search engines, when they check it, they don't provide some of the general knowledge that they ask for. So my children, they use Google, but I try to ensure that those settings are set such that it's only providing safe content. And I think it's just checking whichever search engines are there and just checking their settings. Let's try and make sure we check the settings of whichever browsers that we encourage our young ones to use.
Okay, thank you so much. I think a parent,
Yes,
yes, Francis, please go ahead. You're raising your hand. Go ahead, please, and ask your question. Please go ahead, Francis. Hello?
Okay. Yeah, hello, yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Please, how do you check the setting on the device?
Okay, so if you go to the settings of your phone, yeah, when you click the settings, then you go to Google for Google now, or for, you will see the different apps there. You go to Google, and when you click on Google, you go to privacy. So some of it is said as privacy settings. In some places, it's said as search settings. So you go to that, and then you will see under that where it says, do you want safe search on or off? Those are for like the mobile devices. But if you go online to the web, if you go online on any system that they will be using, like desktops and all of that, if you type in Google search, and that comes out, you look at the bottom of the screen. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see settings there. So you click on the settings there, and then you'll be able to see where you can toggle on or off safe search.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. There's another question here. On the use of filtering of sites to access, how do you put this measure in place for teenagers that are already used to social media without being too hard on them? Okay, how do you put the measures in place without being too hard on your teenagers?
So for those, one way to do it is to put parental controls. And those parental controls on those devices are not controlled by them on their device, they're controlled by the parent's device. So if you check some of those settings under parental controls, it can tell you how can you monitor this device. So you could do it that way. And then maybe if they have all those online profiles, like for Google, they have some of those family profiles where everyone on the family can be logged onto the same profile. And that way it kind of like monitors what comes in and what goes out. And sometimes just letting our teenagers know that some of these things are in place can even just prevent them from going to such sites. You know, they are aware that they are not allowed to do that, and those settings are there. And when they try to go, if the settings come up that they are not allowed to go to this, and so it could prevent access to that without necessarily restricting everything they do.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Itoro. Do we have more questions, parents? I can't see any other question in the chat box, but if we have a parent who would like to speak or ask a question, please go ahead before we end the session for today. So I'll just give parents a few minutes. If you have questions, please ask. Dr. Itoro is here to respond. And yes, there's one more. This is a request from a parent. The parent was asking if your slides will be made available to the participants. Dr. Itoro.
Yes, I'm happy to share the slides with everyone.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you. So parents will share the slides with you after the session. We'll also share the replay video with all the participants after the session, so you can listen to the video over and over again. And we'll also encourage you to visit our YouTube channel for previous sessions that we've had on very important topics around parenting. Okay, so we don't have any more questions right now. Thank you so much, parents. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Itoro, so much. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, parents, for joining us this afternoon. Have a very good day and enjoy the remaining part of your weekend. Thank you, everyone. Before we leave, I'll drop the YouTube link to our YouTube channel in the chat box. So please just click on it and explore our library of past videos. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a very good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Itoro. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you very much. We appreciate. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Effective and useful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think the lawyer of one engagement, the more powerful one. So maybe there's a reason why you shouldn't be with all the things. So I guess if you see it, it's about just kids. So I guess if you let your health go down well,